Welcome to the Lassoing Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rogers.
And I'm Garth Nichols.
And welcome back to another episode of Lassoing Leadership. This is a unique episode, a bit of a bonus or an orphan episode, I suppose. As you continue to create conversations about a kinder, better way to lead, we're always looking to invite new voices into the conversation. For that reason, and so many others, we couldn't be more excited about today's podcast. To start, the working title of today's podcast is Courtside Leadership, where the wisdom of the basketball court meets the insights of leadership in everyday life, and the Lasso podcast. Today, we're stepping away from our usual playbook to dive into an exciting and unique perspective. We're joined by four incredible young athletes from a local high school basketball team coached by none other, our very own Coach Garth Nichols. These girls may not be familiar with the antics of Ted Lasso, but they're no strangers to the dynamics of teamwork, the resilience in the face of adversity, and the nuances of leadership on and off the court. In today's episode, we'll explore the unscripted and authentic views of these young leaders. They're here to share the stories of triumph, challenge, and personal growth, giving us a fresh perspective on what leadership looks like through the eyes of this generation. These athletes are here to show us what leadership isn't about titles or age. It's about actions, empathy, and the ability to inspire others around you. So lace up your sneakers and let's get ready to learn from these game changers. Welcome to the show.
Thanks,
Garth, before you start, how did this ever happen? Like, we're not even on script. Obviously, this is something completely different. Why don't you tell the origin story of this conversation?
Yeah, sure thing. So these are members of my senior basketball team at Havergal College. They are unbelievable athletes. They're unbelievable humans on and off the court. And so we were actually in Winnipeg. We were getting ready to actually play Rundle the next day. We went out for dinner, but we had a game that day. And it was actually Emerson who I think pointed out there was like something going on the court that wasn't quite right. And there was a bit of... I think there's just a bit of not even tension. It was just kind of like different energy on the bench. And so we were out for dinner and I brought it up and they all engaged in a really good conversation about what it means to speak up to leadership, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So there's a power dynamic, obviously players and coach and those types of things. But these folks and others on the team spoke up and said, you can do better, coach, basically.
Nice.
And it was Mina at one point who said, we're not trying to be mean. This is constructive criticism. And I said to them, this is the biggest compliment you can give me right now, because you are willing to, you want me to be better, right? And it's that Jerry Maguire, help me help you type of an approach, which was really great. And I can't say enough about what that moment meant to me as a coach. And I think I may have pointed out that I had a podcast about leadership, and they went off and did their deep dive and then demanded to be on the show. And so now here they are. So let's have them introduce themselves. Go around the table. Paige, you can start.
Okay. My name is Paige. I've been at Havergal College for 6 years. It's my 6th year. I am the sports prefect here, and I've been playing Havergal basketball since grade 7, since I came to the school.
Nice.
My name is Mina. I've been at Havergal since JK, so 14 years. I'm the admissions prefect at Havergal, and I've been playing Havergal basketball since grade 4.
My name's Emerson. I am the well-being prefect. I've been at Havergal for 14 years, and I've played Havergal basketball for 10 years.
My name's Fiona. I've been at Havergal for 7 years, since grade 6. I've played Havergal basketball for those 7 years, and I'm the Francis Ridley house captain at Havergal, which Mr. Nichols is part of this house. So
best house. Yeah, best house.
Amazing. Well, welcome to the show. Now, first off, I've got an important question for the players. I want to know, does Coach Nichols typically use huge words that you don't understand when you're around him? Because he does all the time on the podcast. Be honest. You can be honest.
I think he tries to relate to us a little too much, making some cringe-worthy comments. But I think it's really so. I don't think he
what do you
uses
mean?
big words. When you like dab a lot.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Taylor Swift.
Oh, the Taylor Swift. Yes, yeah.
I think it's nice, and it kind of shows a sort of like extra care for
Oh,
us and trying to.
thanks,
relate to
Fiona.
us.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a relief. So I'm not sure if you've listened to these episodes or not, but I have a doctorate, and there's multiple times each episode where Mr. Nichols used a word I've never heard. So I just hope he can simplify it for all of us today. With that said, let's just jump right into perspectives on leadership. Garth, do you want to hit them with the first question? I'd love to hear what your players have to say about these leadership items that come up throughout Ted Lasso.
Sure. So first prompt is, what does good leadership look like, sound like, and feel like to you, either in academics, on the court, off the court, in classrooms, outside of classrooms, or just in everyday life?
I would probably say trust. And I think Mr. Nichols saying the example of me coming up and saying something to him, I think this is a great example of that. I know when we were playing, everyone was kind of saying how we didn't think the subbing was too effective, but everyone was kind of too scared to say something. And then when he brought this up, I took the opportunity and I was like, might as well say something. But I think this is a good testament of, having trust between like coach and player and not being afraid of that you are more powerful than I am, and whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. What about you, Mina?
What Fiona was saying about like showing that you care for us and going like the extra mile, I think that applies to like coaching, teaching, anything. Like when someone who is like technically like above you in terms of like hierarchy shows them or like shows you that they care, you kind of like want to go to the extra mile for them as well because they're doing the same for you.
Nice. Anyone else?
I was going to say, I don't know, I feel like this really has to connect with trust, but you have to have this sort of level of communication. If, say, off the court, you, like us in our formal leadership roles, we have, like, people who, like, sit on councils or your admissions team. You kind of have to be able to communicate with these people what you think so that they have the trust to also communicate what they think to you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's my turn. So I would say kind of like different from them, but as like a player on the team and trying to like lead in a way, but also like not necessarily being the best player, not necessarily being whatever. It's kind of just like being like a person to just like lift others around you up. I feel like is a little bit of a leadership role. And like I could say like Charlotte, our captain, Charlotte Pickersgill, does a very good job at that because even when she's so like frustrated with herself in a game, she looks at me and she's like, "You're doing great," and just makes you play better.
Yeah, I agree. So trust, care, communication, and this like encouragement, like positivity and encouragement. That's great.
Garth, if I might jump in just like a little bit there, I want to come back to trust with your players here. So it'd be easy to ask how to build up trust, but I want you to think about a time when your trust was eroded. What created that like erosion of trust? How did trust fall out the bottom, and what should leaders avoid if they're aiming to build trust? So is there an example in your own leadership, maybe your own team or your life where, somebody really did break your trust, and what did that look like?
I would say my biggest thing is transparency, saying things that maybe you're afraid to because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings or whatever it may be. But I think like saying those things actually means more than like being afraid to hurt someone's feelings. I think even within friendships or teammates, you go up to someone and you say something because you know it'll better them in the end, even though maybe it'll make them upset in the moment. And I think as like a coach, saying something to a player, even though you might not want to. I know I say this to Mr. Nichols all the time, that he's too nice to us. I think like being harsh and telling people how it is like, I don't know, a very good principle that I try to live by, and I think makes a good leader and builds connection between whoever it may be.
And they needed a little bit more like lead tasso.
Yeah, I think that's solid gold. And I think, Brene Brown, like we talk about it almost every episode, but it's being clear as being kind, I think is a really important principle, like you've just said. And I think the other thing around that is, being hard on ideas, but easy on each other. We're all human, so we want to take care of the human in us, but we want to really be hard on those concepts or ideas or whatever's going on in the moment to be better. That was great insight. Anything else come to mind for any of you?
In terms of trust?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how does trust get eroded, or how do you prevent it from being eroded?
I have no idea. Well, I'm just thinking about times that, like, I'm thinking about, like, for counsel.
Mhm.
Asking someone to do something, you know, obviously they don't. Your trust is, like, not broken, but
Yeah.
it is, because you get this, like, now a new view of them that they can't do this because they can't be trusted to always do it. So I'm just trying to think of how someone can sort of deal with someone who breaks your trust, but
Maybe going off of like you have to earn it, like going off the example that
exactly.
asking someone to do something and they don't do it, then as a person, or like if you're the person that didn't do it, you have to go the extra mile to rework that trust, because it's not an easy thing that comes by.
Yeah, and I think going off of what Fiona had said earlier, communication. So as a leader, are you communicating enough, right, to set that person up for success, to make sure they know what to do, when it's done by?
I was about to say like something like that. I was going to be like, say like we had to make like a video, like just like for like Gator Day or something, like yesterday, like we gave that to somebody on council. And I was just thinking, like, if somebody did just like it like badly, I feel like being like a good leader, like it wouldn't be like trust breaking. It would be like a moment to lead, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, nice.
So like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that is a great that's a great insight into when a leader needs to step in, right, and when a leader needs to build other people up. There's one thing I wanted to go back to, particularly around Paige, because another part about what it means to be a really good leader, what looks, sounds, and feels like, is humor, and you do a great job of like bringing humor into all of this. That's great. Hey, can you think of a moment, maybe in a game or a practice, where someone demonstrated exceptional leadership on the team?
I think it wasn't really like an active leadership, but it was when it was in a game, and I think we were having like a rough time and like playing this game, and someone who's usually like a leader on our team and like speaks out kind of like took a step back and let us like figure it out. Even you sometimes, when you tell us to just like talk amongst ourselves and you take a step back, that's kind of like an active leadership, I guess, just to like be aware that we can like do this on our own, and we like don't all the time have to listen to you, and like we can like find it within ourselves also.
Yeah, nicely said. One of my favorite moments was we were playing against playing the semifinals, and it was the second half at some point in time, and the players on the court like just all got together and they huddled together. I was like, we're going to win the game because of that moment, right? That sort of coming together and believing in each other. So that's amazing.
I feel like also not being the loudest person in the room. I think Ashley on our team is a great example of this, because she's very like a quiet, I would say like shy person before you kind of like break her shell. But I think she's actually a very good leader. She's on my council as well. And she's always kind of the first person to lift someone up and be like, guys, you got this. Like, don't look at the score. Don't worry about it. Focus on like being a team. And even if you're having a bad game, like what can you do to lift other people up?
Quiet leadership is underrated.
Say that again.
Quiet leadership is underrated.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Susan Kane does some great work in that space too. Quiet leadership. She actually runs a program called the Quiet Schools Network, which we used to develop leadership, sort of student leadership frameworks. Really powerful stuff. There was a moment in the tournament where Ashley said, I want to guard that one person. It was against ECS. And I was like, all right, step up. And she did a great job.
Yeah.
So who is, we mentioned a couple names, but think broader. Who's a role model that you look up to in terms of leadership?
Are you wanting us to say you?
No. But think broadly. Who's a role model for leadership in your life?
I have a very basic answer, but I would say my parents.
Sure.
Specifically like my dad, I see him as a very big leader. But I think something that like I admire and try to bring into my own leadership is like keeping his morals at the base of like what he's doing. So with it being like work or whatever, if I don't see him, he's out late and I have a game the next morning or whatever, we have a game, I will always wake up to a text of like, good luck, like here are the things that you do well, here are the things that you need to like remember in this game. And I think that's something that I always appreciate, and he always finds times for the things that he loves, which I think is something that makes a good leader.
Yeah, that's great. And it was great to have his support in Winnipeg too.
Yeah.
True.
Anyone else?
Mr.
Who's a role model that you look up to in terms of leadership?
I immediately also thought of my my parents, which is, I don't know, you just spend a lot of time with them. You see a lot of them. But he kind of, especially my dad holds a lot of like care and compassion that I look up to, and he has like a leadership at his work and just the way that he can treat his employees while like keeping this sort of like balance of kindness to like formality. I think he does like very well. I think that's so important, is keeping formality but also being able to like bring some humor in.
Yeah.
And like be very compassionate and caring to people.
Nice.
This is kind of like different. I'm trying to be different here, but I was actually, what came to mind, probably because she like texted me really recently, was Sophie Hodgson.
Oh.
Because she's only 1 year older than us.
Former senior basketball player, now Havergal
Coach's
alum.
Award recipient.
Yeah.
But I'm saying her just because I feel like, even though like I wouldn't say I'm like that close with her, she just like always like led by example to me. Like she was, when I was in grade 10, she was in grade 11, she was on sports council. And I just like always remember like she was so excited to do things. Like she brought so many good ideas and I was like, I want to do that. Like, you know, like she led, and she's still like, she left the school and 3 days ago she texted me and she's just like, I haven't talked to you in so long. How's grade 12? And I was just like,
yeah.
so
And
nice.
she came out to our quarterfinal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like somebody that's always just like there.
I think basketball for Sophie, like the team was always something that was, she knew she was part of something greater than just herself, and she really helped build the culture of the team too.
Yeah, true.
Mina, what about you?
I was actually going to say something very similar to Paige. I was going to say Emma Wagman, who is also a Havergal grad who just graduated last year. And I think something about her that makes me like really inspired is she's so humble, like with all of her like accomplishments. And she always like,
True.
I again with Paige, like I didn't really know her very well, but whenever I would see her, she would like smile at me, and she was the former admissions prefect, so I ended up like taking her role kind of. But fully. But she's I didn't know her well, but she was just so like caring always with me. And she wrote me a birthday text last week, and it was probably like one of the nicest texts I've ever received. And I haven't seen her in so long, but it was just like so meaningful.
Yeah. That's great. I love that that you've looked to, your communities for this type of leadership. Hey, Jason, who's a role model for you that you look up to?
Other than you and my dad, the former head of school here at Rundle, he was here for 27 years, and he led this school from being about 16 students to about 1,000 students. And he was just a man of great character and integrity and principle and hard work. And I've always loved Dave Houck. And so he's been like a father figure to me. And that's who I look up to. That's for sure. What about you, Garth?
I'll pull like a page from Paige here. I'm going to try and be different. I have always looked up to Terry Fox.
Oh, nice.
Okay, that's a big one.
Good one,
not
Garth.
many people know, but he did play basketball, and he worked for Jay Triano, former coach of the Toronto Raptors.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people talk about his marathon of hope and how great he was, and the endurance that he had. Not a lot of people talk about his anger, and that's something that he was just fueled by so many different emotions and values that I think about him like every September. It's pretty powerful. And he was voted Canada's Canada's most famous Canadian or
Greatest
number one
Canadian?
Greatest Canadian.
Yeah.
That's a
Garth,
good
maybe
title.
I'll summarize some of what your players have shared with us. And they've definitely, I did a doctorate in leadership, but I'm not sure I learned more there or I learned more here. So what I've heard from the players is that in building trust we should always underpromise and overperform and overdeliver. And that allows other people around us to see value in the work that we're doing, and other people as well. I also heard a really important piece from the players that everybody can lead, even the quiet ones, and everybody has a seat in that leadership journey, and we should respect their talents and skills and what they bring to the table. In line with that, also shared was that distributed leadership to empower others is an important part of a team dynamic, whether it's a business or a sports team like your basketball team. And maybe most importantly, throughout your conversation, the message that I was able to bear witness to is that seeing people and supporting them with a balance of kindness and empathy and humbleness is a really important skill for leaderships to be able to see and value people. And I think the last thing I'd like to share, and it came through time and again in this conversation, is that small gestures of kindness really matter. So whether it's the text from your father, or text from your friend, or a good job, good work, those things really matter, and the small things really add up to big results. And so these 5 principles that you've laid down would be the great foundation for any leadership book that I could imagine reading. And so thank you for taking the time to share them with us. Garth, I might throw back to you to wrap up the pod.
Yeah, great. So yeah, you took everything. I was going to say, it's amazing how who you look up to and what good leadership looks like, sounds like, and feels like for you is so aligned, right? So communication came through for you, and you talked about your dad. You talked about trust, and even though your dad might be working late or something like that, he's like always comes back to you, which is really, really great. And you talked about lifting up others, right? And then you were talking about Sophie Hodgson and how she lifted up others and encouraged people. And Mina, you talked about someone who really cares, and talked about how Emma has shown care for you. So I think that was really great. I am so happy that you joined us on this podcast. All 4 of you are incredible leaders, and I said this to you at the end of the tournament, which sort of wrapped up our season. Was that all 4 of you really helped maintain and sustain and bolster the culture of senior basketball, which, like Ted Lasso, it's not necessarily about the wins. It's about the journey. It's about the experience, right? And you all spoke about how much this team meant to you and the people on the team meant to you. So I'm really proud of you for actually being on the team and what you contributed. I loved every moment of our journey this year. And I think that you are doing a great job for the whole school as well in your formal leadership roles too. So that was amazing.
So to close, if I could say, Paige, Mina, Fiona, Emerson, even though you don't know what this means, you are doing it, and keep leading the Lasso way. I look forward to having you back another time on the podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody.